How is it that some of the smartest people you know still struggle with money? They've got degrees, knowledge, and the ability to solve complex problems, yet financially, they're stuck. Living paycheck to paycheck, delaying dreams, watching others with less education build real wealth faster. So what's really going on? Is it bad luck, the economy, or something deeper nobody talks about? Here's the uncomfortable truth: being smart doesn't automatically make you rich. In many cases, it does the opposite, because the system doesn't reward overthinking. It rewards action, risk, and execution. And today, we're breaking down the hidden psychology behind why intelligent people stay broke, and how wealth often flows to those who think and move differently. Smart people trust logic. They believe if they make the right decisions, the right results will naturally follow. But money doesn't operate like a math equation. It's driven by behavior, emotion, timing, and risk. And here's where the trap begins. Intelligent people tend to overthink everything. They analyze opportunities until the opportunity no longer exists. They get stuck in endless loops of research, asking, what if I lose money, or I just need a little more information, or let me wait for the perfect timing? Meanwhile, someone with less knowledge, but more courage, is already in motion. Testing, failing, learning, and building. Because in the real world, imperfect action consistently beats perfect planning. Smart people often confuse thinking with doing, but thinking is not building. Planning is not earning. Learning is not execution. And that small gap between knowledge and action is exactly where wealth disappears, and where financial freedom is either made or missed. We live in the age of unlimited information. Courses, podcasts, books, YouTube strategies. Everything you need to get ahead is one click away. And smart people consume it all. But here's the problem. They keep learning, but they never start. They convince themselves that one more course will unlock clarity. One more video will build confidence. One more book will finally prepare them for action. And slowly, it becomes a loop, a cycle of infinite preparation with no execution. The uncomfortable truth is this: information without action creates the illusion of progress. You feel productive, you feel ahead, you even feel smart. But nothing changes in your real financial life, because wealth doesn't respond to how much you know. It responds to what you actually apply, build, and execute in the real world. Here's the deeper layer most people never admit. Smart individuals are extremely sensitive to judgment. They care about perception, reputation, and being seen as competent. Because of that, they avoid anything that could expose them to failure or embarrassment. They don't want to look wrong. They don't want to be exposed. So they stay in safe zones where outcomes are predictable and risk is low. But wealth is never built in certainty. Every successful person carries a history filled with failed attempts, bad decisions, and moments they would rather forget. That's part of the process. Smart people, however, try to skip that entire phase. They think, well, if success isn't guaranteed, I won't move. And that mindset slowly kills financial growth. Because business demands trial and error, investing demands risk. Opportunity demands action before clarity. But fear doesn't call itself fear. It disguises itself as intelligence, saying, I'm just being careful. When in reality, it's hesitation dressed up as wisdom. Here's another hidden truth people don't talk about. Smart individuals often lean towards safety. They choose stable jobs, predictable income, and structured routines because it feels secure and logical. And there's nothing wrong with stability. It provides comfort and control. But the real issue is this: it limits upside. Because wealth doesn't grow in comfort zones. It grows in environments built on ownership, leverage, risk-taking, and scalability. While the safe path keeps income steady, it rarely multiplies wealth. Meanwhile, someone who may not have the same credentials, but is willing to take risks, starts building something: a business, a side hustle, a digital brand, or an investment portfolio. And over time, the gap widens. Not because they are more intelligent, but because they were willing to stay uncomfortable longer, take uncertain steps, and bet on themselves when there were no guarantees. Here's the most overlooked part of the entire equation. Smart people often build their identity around being the intelligent one. Over time, it becomes part of how they see themselves and how they want others to see them. So naturally, they avoid anything that threatens that image. They don't want to look inexperienced. They don't want to be beginners. They don't want to fail in public where their intelligence might be questioned. But every single wealth-building journey starts exactly there, at the beginning where you know nothing and have to figure it out. And that's where the block happens. They unconsciously avoid opportunities that require them to start from scratch. Meanwhile, wealth builders think differently. They don't protect an image. They chase outcomes. They're willing to look inexperienced, make mistakes, and even look stupid for months if it leads to long-term freedom. Because in reality, identity can either be a tool or a trap. And for many smart people, ego quietly becomes the invisible prison that keeps them stuck. So if intelligence alone isn't enough, what actually creates wealth? It comes down to a few simple but powerful shifts: action over analysis, consistency over intensity, risk tolerance over perfection, execution over knowledge. Because wealth is not built in your head. It's built in real-world repetition, in trying, failing, adjusting, and showing up again when things don't work. Most people think success is about having the smartest strategy, but in reality, it's about staying in the game long enough to discover what actually works. The people who win financially are not always the most intelligent in the room. They are the ones who keep moving when others overthink, who stay consistent when motivation fades, who take calculated risks when others wait for certainty. Because in the end, wealth doesn't reward perfection. It rewards persistence, execution, and the ability to keep going long after others have stopped. So the real question is not whether you're smart enough to get rich. The real question is, are you willing to act before you feel completely ready? Because the world is full of intelligent people who think, analyze, and plan their way into financial stagnation. They know what to do, but they never actually do it. And then there's a smaller group, not always the smartest, not always the most educated, but the ones who move anyway. They take imperfect action, they learn in motion, they build while others are still preparing, and over time, they create results that intelligence alone never delivered. Because in the end, the gap between being stuck and being free is not knowledge, it's behavior. What you consistently choose to do when nothing feels perfect, certain, or ready. That's what defines your financial future.